Welcome to the Hardheaded podcast, where we're going to be taking a practical and realistic approach over the next few episodes on the 23 traits that it takes to be a better father, better dads to our kids. Join us as we embark on this journey.
All right, welcome to Hardheaded Podcast, episode number 184. It's June 13th when this episode releases. Right around the corner is Father's Day.
Father's Day.
We are all three fathers.
Dads.
And got us to thinking, what if we did something a little different?
On that note, with Father's Day coming up, I just heard that Father's Day is like, the 20th most popular holiday?
Out of 20?
Out of like all the holidays, I guess, but it's number 20. And I can't remember what it falls behind, but I mean, it's basically everything else.
I don't doubt that one bit.
So here we are,
Mother's Day.
Like right behind, I think it's number 2, right behind Christmas.
Yeah.
Like I seriously think that's what the
I don't doubt that.
Well, anyway, thank you.
We're trying to bring those numbers up. Up.
Not necessarily. I'm not advocating for a better holiday.
Maybe it would be celebrated more if there were better fathers out there, and that's what we're looking to do with these next few episodes.
Okay.
That's where I was going with that, Chet.
All right, I'll get behind that.
Celebrate your dads.
So we are going to detach from our normal.
We as dads just need to give them something to celebrate. But go ahead, Chet. I keep interrupting you.
We're gonna. It's like I'm on here with a bunch of women.
We're gonna try to change that too, because I think a lot of dads act like women. So we're gonna fix that.
We're not gonna change anything. We're just gonna give people ideas and thoughts.
Okay.
And if they want to change, they can change.
I'm tracking now.
So we're gonna break from our normal 3-segment episodes for the foreseeable future. I think the way we have it planned right now, the next 8 episodes, we're gonna dig into an article. 23 Qualities of a Good Father, Traits and Characteristics, that was written by Jeff Campbell. It hit the newmiddleclassdad.com website at the end of 2023. So our plan as we go is to cover 3 of those 23 traits as each episode until we run out. But so the next series of podcasts, we're not going to have a top 3. We are not going to have a good word in the context that we've always had a good word. We're going to jump straight into these traits and characteristics, with our theme verse for the series being Ephesians 6:4. It says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." So that's a very powerful verse. But it's also not too descriptive on the how. It's the what. Do not provoke your children to anger and bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Having a good relationship with your children is imperative if you want to be able to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. You can't just say, I'm going to pound the Bible into my kids' heads and bring them to church, and then everything's going to be fine from there. You have to have a really good relationship with them. And these 23 things that we're going to cover should help develop your relationship with your kids, no matter how old they are. I think it's pretty going to be pretty impactful. So if you think about who we are and what we have, we've got kids represented from the hosts here of the podcast that start at age 20 and go as actually. The birthday to get to 20 is between us recording and this episode releasing, but and then all the way down to Troy, Finley's 5, right?
Yep.
So
5 years old.
We've got a breadth of knowledge. Some of what we're going to talk about in our stories are going to be years ago when my kids were 5, or it may be today when Troy's kid is 5. So we're going to have a lot of we're going to cover a lot of the whole childhood, getting into adulthood. With our insight that we have here. So,
and I want to preface from this side of the table that I am no expert, and along with reading some of these things and kind of going through some different things over the last few months, that I've learned a lot of stuff. And one of those things is because I've been talking with some dads, through social media or through messages, just friends and stuff like that of kids, or with dads who have kids that are they've been, the parents have been divorced, And so dad's still trying to figure out a way to maintain that relationship with the children. So I think these will help with that, because I've been trying to give the best advice that I can, not having been in that situation. But I'm learning a lot of stuff as the audience is too, as we go through this. So I don't claim to be an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but these are just tips and tricks that we've come across that we're providing to
And I know
you
you're
as well.
using tips and tricks in the conjecture. Not tricks. They're just good advice.
Good advice, yeah.
None of us are experts, but we love God, we love our wife, and we love our children.
Right.
And we're going to come at you with mistakes that we've made and with some things that we've done that have worked through that. So join us. I hope you are encouraged by this. If you are not a dad, which means you're either potentially going to be a dad or you're a woman.
Or you're a woman. Not a dude.
Or you could declare you're a dad, and I guess we have to believe it now. Change your
No,
identity.
we're gonna get Piers Morgan on the case here.
So, but anyway, you should enjoy this. Hopefully, if you are a wife, a mother, you can encourage your husband or the father of your kids along with some of this advice that comes through here.
Baby daddy.
So we're gonna get started before we go off the cliff on the precipice already. Number one of the 23 qualities of a good father, traits and characteristics: be present and involved. Be present and involved. What does that mean to you, Troy?
Being present means a lot more than just being in the room, right? Or being around, especially today with today's technology and everything. One of the main things that I try to do when I'm at home, when we're just being in the house, living in the house together, is to stay away from phone, technology, that kind of stuff, and just be there for them. Whether they have questions about stuff or if it's just everyday living.
Yeah.
Just being around and being there, being available for your kid.
Yep.
Is huge.
And I'll tell you from my perspective, and I'll be able to talk about my dad in a different light than you guys will, because my dad's never going to be able to hear this podcast. My dad was in the home, as I was being raised, but I would say the involved part wasn't really there. I don't know if he could have picked any of my friends out of a lineup, named their names, that kind of stuff. He was always there, available for questions, but he was a avid reader, so he always had a book. Like, so if he's anywhere, he is reading. And so if you come and sit down and like, hey, he's being disrupted, he'll put his book down. What do you need me for, son? So the present is an involved presence, not just I'm at the house all the time and I worked all day and leave me alone. It's involved with what's going on. Matt, you were about to say something.
Well, yeah. So the being present to me, because, so my kids are 15 and 18, basically at the point where kids don't, dad's not cool, right now. And so being present for me is always just letting them know that I'm there and trying to engage with them as much as I possibly can in between activities or whatnot, but letting them come to me and just letting them, hey, I'm here.
You're not forcing yourself, but you're
not forcing yourself on them, but hey, I'm here, whatever you need, just let me know. Let's, and they will, I mean, obviously it's, like a lot of life situations, like my daughter, when she was in her car accident, the first one she ran to was me, and big hug and everything, and crying and, but part of being a dad, right?
Yeah.
So you're there at rock bottom, mom gets a lot of the good stuff, but here, dads have to deal with a lot of the hard stuff sometimes.
And I'll tell you, one of them kind of comes after the other. Being there, sometimes you have to be there for a while before the involvement, their willingness to let you be involved in their lives comes around. So and I have found the easiest way that my kids open up to me is when we're in the car and we're not looking at each other. There's not that
pressure,
intensity and pressure.
And there's no one else around either, right?
Right.
especially with us. I mean, there's 5 kids, there's 7 people
Yeah.
in the house. It's hard to get some one-on-one time.
Right.
And those kids, I mean, they fight for that one-on-one time.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes they're going to fight to avoid it. You know, that'll
Right.
come.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I think that's where Matt and I are with some of those circumstances. But
Oh, it's your turn.
I've got to go run an errand. I got to run to Menards or to pick something up. Like, you're going with me. Like, I'm going to take one of you.
yeah,
And you end up, they're never getting disappointed by the time that they come back. But like, I don't want to get up, right now. But I think the other thing that gets in our way and that's huge is the present part is not present with a phone or a TV on.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
as dads, we need to be very conscious of how much attention we're giving to something other than our kids when we have an opportunity to give attention to our kids. So anyway,
yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah.
we're going to move on. And I think one of the challenges that, we're going to have, a little transparency here, is we could probably talk one episode for each one of these things. We're going to try to move on to
Right. I
some
do
more.
want to talk about the work-life boundary though, because you brought it up in the article in
Yeah.
that first one. Because I own my own business, I work from home a lot, especially in the early stages of my business. I was working from home at nights, weekends.
Mhm.
There comes a time where you have to do that. But as my kids have gotten older, I've noticed like I got to put this computer away and spend some time with my family.
Yeah.
And so you've got to create boundaries to where you can do that. And what we have done is, and my wife helped me out a lot with this because she recognized it right, before I did.
Right.
When you get home, you don't open that computer until all the kids are in bed.
Yeah.
With the ages that they are now.
Yeah, and realizing that typically your clients, the work you're going to do at night at home, your clients aren't expecting that till the next day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
why work on it at 6:30 when your kids are going to bed at 8:30 and then
Yeah.
you crack open the laptop?
Knock it out
after that?
from 9 to 11.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
And that's one of the things that was really hard for me initially, being a Marine, because both my kids were born when I was active duty. And so I'd come home from training and be either mentally drained or mentally and physically drained. And so I was very bad about being present and, doing stuff unless, it was on a weekend or something like that. It's like, okay, now I got a little bit of time. But still just carving that time out when you come home, and again, just want to say, one of the other things that I've learned is none of this stuff is unrepairable. You can always always fix those relationships. And so don't count yourself out.
Okay.
If you're not following
Yep.
these and you're like, man, I'm so far behind, I'm not doing any of this. I'm a terrible father.
You're getting into number 2, Matt.
Okay,
I
sorry.
know you're in.
I prepared. I'm sorry.
But
Good.
yeah, but
I'm sorry.
This is what's so hard because the 2 other ones we're covering today, say you're sorry, is number 2, and spend quality time with your family. And I was about ready to interject some quality time tips into number 1. Like, hey, I can wait till number 3 to get to that.
There you go.
But number 2, say you're sorry, and I think Matt was hammering that home really, really strong. And I'm sorry to kind of get you off kilter there, but
No,
you as a dad have screwed up. I as a dad have screwed up. Troy, I'm assuming you've screwed up as a dad.
plenty.
I don't think that it is any sign of weakness to let your kids know that you're not perfect. Like,
Yeah.
I know, they know you're not perfect already. But if you have the humility to come and say, you know what, I really messed this up. And it may be going back years and say, one of the things that I really want to apologize to you for is during my active duty career,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do such and such. And I
wasn't
messed that
here.
up.
I'd
Can you
rather-
apologize?
rather sleep because, whatever.
Yeah. So that's one thing I think that we need to be quick with our kids is saying you're sorry. That shows them a couple of things. Number one, it shows ownership. Like, you don't want them to feel like nothing is ever their fault, right? And you can demonstrate that, you have faults, therefore they can accept some of their faults as well and admit that they're sorry around certain things. But if you're putting up this wall of perfection, you're going to see your kids mimic that as well. So being quick to admit that you made a mistake and not fake that you're perfect and act like something that was bad never happened. So I think that's a good one. You guys have any other? I really did step on top of you there.
No, you're good. I would say with, it's not just saying you're sorry. It's actually, in other words, repent, just don't make those mistakes again, So say you're sorry and then rectify whatever you were sorry for, and don't do it again. Don't repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, hey, one thing that I can think of is just through myself talking to other guys too, is like, hey, we'll do that next weekend. Oh, it didn't happen, something came up, or plans changed, whatever, and then we'll just push it the next week and push it the next weekend, instead of, I'm sorry, we'll get it next week. I'm sorry, we'll put it next week, but you're still repeating those same mistakes. So just do what you're gonna say. Do what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I have had to, probably the most frequent thing I've had to apologize for is my temper. Like I could get pretty upset pretty quick. And,
amen.
Earlier on, are you saying that about me or about
I'm saying
you?
that about me.
Okay.
I'm saying that about me.
I thought you were saying about him. I was like,
Chet's
absolutely.
got a temper.
Preach.
But anyways, is being able to come in, and I've gotten a lot quicker to this point. We're like, oh my, I've done it even in the fit that I'm throwing. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I should not be this wound up about this deal. Please forgive me for raising my voice or whatever. Right away. But I think it's really good to get that out there. Not just like a commitment that was missed, but my attitude. I want to apologize. My attitude wasn't what it should have been just now. I shouldn't have talked to you that way, or I'm sorry, I didn't explain what else is going on in my life right now that would cause me to be on edge and not tolerate this like I normally do. Some of those kind of things.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on to number 3. And this kind of gets back into some of what you were talking about, Troy, with the work-life balance, but spend quality time with your family. That's number 3, is spend quality time with your family. A lot of it's busy at work. So Troy has, talked about working from home or always having work available.
Yeah.
Especially being a business owner. I travel a lot, and I have always traveled a lot. I was on a work assignment, and this is nothing in comparison to what our military listeners have to go through and what Matt has had to go through. But our first pregnancy, Ash, I was gone the last 2.5 months of her pregnancy on a work assignment that came up like on a Friday. Chet, we need you somewhere on Sunday, and you're going to have to be there indefinitely, kind of thing. And I was like, well, I at least got to be back because my wife's due, in June. And they're like, yeah, when we get closer to that, we'll work out a replacement for you. And we literally, had to induce labor. So we kind of were able to set the date. And I came in like 2 weeks before that, just because things were getting a little touch and go with the pregnancy. But from that point on, there's been a level of travel that I've always had to do. So planning around that, making sure that there's time before and after, normally to touch base with the kids. And then a lot of times it's not even giving them an option that you're going to spend some quality time with them. It's scheduling things for the entire family. You have to force that to happen. Not like, hey kids, do you want to go do such and such? And they're like, no, I want to play Fortnite.
Hey, we're going to go.
Yeah, this is in. Yeah. And so I did this last weekend. So Ashley was out of town, and we have not. All 3 of my kids have not been up to our hunting property in years, where we're all 3 there at the same time, or all 3 of my kids are there at the same time. And I said, just so you know, 4:00 on Friday,
we're headed that
going
way
north. And it didn't happen at 4:00 because Stone had to work late, but. We did it, and it was fantastic. We had a really good time together, and got a lot of work done too, which was the primary reason for going up there. There's some stuff I hadn't been up there since January, but you gotta schedule it. You own the family schedule as a head of household.
Yeah,
utilize that power. Make that quality time happen. You're not a victim of some schedule. You can be in control of this thing, especially when you're working with your wife on this. You can honestly say, I want to spend more time with us as a family doing whatever. Let's schedule it. Let's book it. Let's get it in there, And then what's the prior? Oh, well, we've got T-ball. Well, is T-ball more important than this? Like, what is truly our priority here? or when does T-ball end? And then we're going to put this as the priority as soon as the schedule's over, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently I felt like I hadn't seen my daughter in forever because she goes to school. Well, now it's summer, but she goes to school, then she goes to dance, and then she might come home 8:30, 9 o'clock at night from dance. And then I'm like, hey, how's your life? I haven't seen you in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's about a week ago on the weekend, I stuck my head in a room. I was like, oh, hey, you're here. Great. It's like, hey, you want to play a card game? You want to play chess or something? She's like, yeah, let's definitely set some time this weekend and we'll do that. And so we sat down and played a game of chess, and she got bored to tears, but it was still just, it was fun and quality time together.
She was getting bored because she was beating you so badly.
Well, I beat her, but I'm not the best player. Like Tatum, how old is he now? 10-year-old stalemated me yesterday. I'm like, God, I hate this game. I don't even know why I play it.
Flip that thing over.
But yeah, just something as simple as that. Because I know in the article he talks about, if you can't book a beach vacation, on a whim, there's little things that you can do to spend quality time with your kids. So
yeah, and I know. So from the article, it says create memories. Book a cruise, beach holiday, or watch a movie at the theater. That might be for some dads that are balling.
Right.
This dad's balling on a budget. So the other ideas, board games, sports, hiking, or other family activities. When we would go to Colorado every summer, one of the big things at night, the whole family gets together and we would play board games. And so Grandpa always has like a box that he brings to, because we go on vacation with our in-laws. And so he's always got this huge Tupperware thing of games. And it's like, oh, we're going to play this. Or he's always got a new game that's come up. And we always have such a great time because my family is so good at talking smack back and forth to each other. And to the point I've asked my 15-year-old daughter how many times, I don't know how many times I've asked her if she wants to fight. I was like, do we need to take this outside and just fight? Because, she always gets a kick out of that and smiles about it. But, you don't have to go do anything extravagant. Some of the best times have just been out shooting baskets, with them, just playing a simple game of horse or something.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things there. Number one, you may be a grandparent listening to this, and you may have the means to provide for these scenarios, these vacations with the entire family that your kids may not.
We 100% latch on because it's my in-laws' cabin. I mean, so we go up there and we hang out.
But at the same time, so we've made it a point, and it was after, this is going back like 10 years or so, when our youngest was old enough to be self-sufficient. Like, we are now going to start taking vacations. Like, that was something that we committed to, not just in, saying, but we budgeted for it so we can do some things that we wanted to do. And, but the other day, my kids brought up a Saturday and it wasn't, I took two of them. We went to Cheney Lake and took the dog just so we can get him in the water and swim. And we didn't go to like the state park. We went to one of the duck spots that, duck hunt in. And they were like, man, that was just a great day. And I was like, I was just looking to get out of the house, and it was hot. And it took me like 2 hours to clean the stupid dog after we got back because all that red clay and the water and all that kind of stuff. But
very familiar.
They look at that and are like, man, I really enjoyed that day. And all it did was, a 20-minute drive, right? I mean, that's all it was. There's no other cost to it, and other than a little elbow grease on getting the dog cleaned up. But it doesn't take a whole lot to create those memories. And don't think that you need to spend more time at work so that you can afford stuff and you're pulling yourself away from the kids trying to get tangible things, when really what we're looking here for is the quality time is you being there, not you being gone all the time so you can save a bunch of money and then go do some one big thing.
90% of the crap that you're going to buy them is going to be gone in a couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
But those memories, they last.
Yeah.
They're the ones that last.
I remember more hunting and more like sitting in the boat fishing with my dad. I remember those memories more than I remember going to Disney World or even going skiing, like on the big trips that we went on, like the smaller trips and the like things that he probably thought it was like, oh, it's an everyday thing that we're going to go do. Those are the things I remember with my dad.
Yeah.
Like I remember the big ones, but there's so many more of the little ones that they just,
because it's the quality of the time together and not the quality of the event.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bumper sticker.
It is.
Yeah.
T-shirt.
T-shirt. Speaking of T-shirts, check out whatever.
Yeah.
Hardheadedpodcast.com.
There you go. But yeah, so I mean, and you know, it's mostly the small memories, but and we're going to talk about this a little later in one of the upcoming episodes. But taking an interest in your kids, what they're into, even though you're not into it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that coming up, but this kind of goes hand in hand with that. Is you know, growing up, I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. Like that was, and I loved basketball. Everything about basketball. I knew everything about basketball. Played. I mean, I'd be out in my driveway. You know, I'd start shooting at 7:00 at night, and you know, they'd flip the lights on and off to let me know to come inside because I was making too much noise at midnight.
Yeah.
You know, and I just loved the sport. But they knew that I loved Michael Jordan, and so they saved and saved and saved. And we actually, because we didn't have enough money to fly, but we took the train up to Chicago, and then they took me to a Bulls game. But you know, and
That's awesome.
we were up in the nosebleeds, like you couldn't even barely make players out.
Yeah.
You know, in standing room only. We didn't have seats, but that's all we could afford. But we went anyway. You know, and that's one of the greatest things. That's one of the greatest trips I've ever taken.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get to see Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, you know, all those guys from a distance, obviously. But them taking an interest in my interests and making that a memory. So that kind of goes into both categories. But
yeah. So, and we'll kind of cover that to wrap it up. The three from today: be present and involved. Number 2, say
so
you're
that leads
sorry.
into next week, actually.
Number 3, spend quality time with your family. And then next week, we're going to cover take an active interest in their interests, and then let kids develop their own interest. And finally, don't have a different set of rules for your kids than you do for yourself. So that's what's coming up next week. Really excited about that. We're going to drop off with a passage from Proverbs. Troy, you want to read that for us?
Yeah, I got Proverbs 4:11. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness.
One of the reasons I think we pulled this verse, you're not going to do much teaching or leading if you're not present, humble, and focused in quality time with your kids. So that's a very appropriate verse, I think, that would round out this episode well.
Yeah, and even the whole Proverbs 4 is a father's wise instruction. So if you've never read it, be a good read.
All right, thanks for tuning in. We hope you're excited about the next few episodes that we've got. We're really excited to hear from it. We'd love to hear comments, questions.
Yeah,
and
definitely
stuff that
let
we
us
can
know what
bring
you
in.
think.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.